Welcome to the talk show Life Stories with Marc Hoberman. The goal of this show is to provide a learning experience to people of all ages, with guests from various fields in academics, a wide range of industries, and insight into the many forms of art, athletics, and entertainment. We hope you enjoy the show. Judge Judy Bailiff Petry Byrd is our guest today. Petri will talk about his experiences on the show Judge Judy, as well as his years as a court officer, actor, and writer.
Petry Byrd, welcome to Life Stories with Marc Hoberman.
Hey, how you doing?
Doing well. So good to see you. You know what, Byrd? I want to go way back. We talked a little bit pre-show time, but can you tell me a little bit about your childhood?
Wow. My childhood, I was born and pretty much part of the time raised in Crown Heights, Brooklyn. When I was about 6 years old, we moved to Bushwick, and I went to public schools there until I graduated from middle school, and I went to Brooklyn Tech. And when I went to Brooklyn Tech, we moved back to Crown Heights. Crown Heights always seemed to be, no matter where we would roam, some kind of way we wind up back in Crown Heights, and so, like I said, born and raised there, graduated from a high school in Williamsburg. I didn't graduate from Tech, but I went to Eastern District High School. From there, I went to Ostos Community College up in the Bronx. Show you I'm a typical New Yorker. I consider going to the Bronx going away to school. So,
Brooklyn, yeah,
quite the haul going up there. But I went to Ostos Community College, and then I transferred to John Jay College of Criminal Justice, where I finished out my college career, which 4-year college only took me about 8 years. So,
tell me some of your initial experiences as a court officer, and then different things that happened along the way.
Well, as I was a court officer at first at Brooklyn Family Court, and then I transferred about a year into my career as a court officer. I transferred to Manhattan Family Court, and working in family court was a different experience than most of the other courts, from what I understand. Criminal court, you have this sort of idea and this sort of attitude that most of the people coming in there, though innocent until proven guilty, you tend to think, okay, they're criminals. They're of the criminal element. Small claims court, well, you got people who just have personal beefs against one another. Landlord-tenant court, same thing. The landlord is usually trying to get his money. The tenant is usually trying to beat that and,
right,
get some more time without being evicted. But family court is decidedly different because you don't really have, you have adversarial parties, but they're busy trying to sew their lives up. They're trying to get their family life together, whether that's, a woman who's asking for child support payments, or a man who, or a woman who's seeking visitation rights or custody rights, and then we had mixed in with that juvenile cases, so we had juvenile delinquency cases, and we had persons in need of what they call persons in need of supervision, so it might be a foster care issue, as opposed to a criminal issue. But you have this high mixture of almost volatile emotions going on in family court, and people are hyped, and we didn't carry any weapons throughout the building. This is case in point.
Right.
the only weapons were at the magnetometer downstairs. We didn't carry any weapons in the building because, again, emotions can run high, and they were often volatile. But it was a very interesting place to work, because it was so different than any of the other courts, and it was dealing with again with family matters and things of that nature. And so, very, very interesting people there, very interesting judges who, had to exercise the wisdom of Solomon over, many cases, So, I think the only thing I didn't see was, a judge saying, okay, what we got to do is we got to cut the baby in half,
Right.
But listen, everything else, was right there in family court, man,
How do you deal with, and how did you deal with, and still now it's embedded in your brain, some of these, I'm sure, heartbreaking cases that took place right in front of you? You had no decision making, but you had to have seen a lot.
Wow. While as an officer, I was given an award for stopping a woman from literally stabbing her paramour or her child's father, and again, I'm standing in the waiting area, and I look towards the back wall. I'm looking in front of me towards the other side of the waiting area, and running along the back wall of that area, I see this woman, and I heard somebody say, "Stop her." I didn't realize until I got over to her that she actually had a knife, and she was in mid plunge. She was just getting ready to let it fly, and I grabbed her wrist and I wrestled the knife out of her hand. She just collapsed and in a pool of tears, and but she was enraged, and I didn't know the circumstances because it wasn't a case that was coming into our courtroom. But that was my first that was my first and only arrest, and I didn't even realize that I had to arrest this woman. I was willing, like, hey, miss, you can't stab the guy. Go sit over there and be cool, But I was instructed by my lieutenant. He said, you have to effectuate arrest, and I had to remember, arrest procedures and stuff. And we took her down. We booked her that night. It took us forever. We were over at Central Booking. Shows you how much we knew about that aspect of law enforcement. And but a few months later, I was told that I was to receive an award, a Medal of Excellence from the Court Officers Union and from the courts. And I told them in my little acceptance speech that they allowed me to have, I told them, I said, I don't feel like I really earned this. I said, I just stopped one human being from giving her frustrations or exuding her frustrations upon this other human being that she probably once loved, and now it had come to a matter of court hearings and dispositions by judges and prodding by probation and probably psychiatrists involved, and all of this about your children, So I think it was, I think what I did in essence was I didn't heed the warnings that I got from the more jaded officers who had been there for a while. And what they said to me was, Byrd, listen, you're a court officer. Don't be a social worker. But I'm like, yo, excuse me. I once had to go to Queens Family Court about my child. And the issue between her mother and I, in terms of my visitation and child support and all those issues. And I had to stand before a Queens family court judge, not as an officer. I mean, I was afforded a certain amount of leeway in terms of coming in and where I sat and waited, for my case to be called. But other than that, I was just another guy who was looking for assistance from the system, and so that helped me empathize with not only people back then when I was an actual court officer in Manhattan Family Court, but it also helped me, during the years that I was on television, watching real people come in with their real cases to be adjudicated by Judge Judy Shiner.
Right. Absolutely. I have to tell you, I'm about to get into that, but it's great to be humble and everything. But you talk about empathy. That woman and her family owe you a debt she can never repay, because her children didn't have a mother who was in jail for any long period of time, thanks to your actions. So
right.
It's great that you were so humble. And I love the fact that you talk about your time on the other side of the bench, so to speak. So yeah. Since you bring it up, how do we go from I'm taking the knife out of this person's hands, I'm here in Brooklyn, I'm here in the Bronx, and now I'm here on Judge Judy? How did that come about?
So as is wont to happen, so at the time that I was a court officer, during the late 80s, up to 1990, I was married. I had children. My wife and I, we didn't see things eye to eye. She was from California, and I think that she got tired of Brooklyn. I think as we had children, I think she saw herself someplace else other than Brooklyn. Mm-hmm. I was a dyed-in-the-wool Brooklynite, and we separated. She came out to California. I came out to California to see her, and fundamentally pursued her out to California, to reconcile our marriage, which we did, and had more children. But at some point, I saw my son in California running down the beach, and he was just carefree, and the sun was shining in the air and all that, and I'm like, I don't even know where the beach is in Brooklyn. So Coney Island, that's about it.
Exactly. And the cyclone.
Yeah, exactly. I guess God told me, he said, hey, move west, young man. And so I decided to pack up everything and move out to California. I got out to California. I worked for the U.S. Marshal Service as a court security officer for the federal government. And while doing that, a friend of mine at the church that I came to land in, he told me about an opportunity to be a counselor at a high school. And some kind of way I had always worked with kids. Some kind of way I always had a thing for helping kids, man. As an aside, I once took a young kid home. For a while I had I worked in the foster care unit of Manhattan Family Court, and one night we're there one evening about 5 o'clock, and they're trying to decide what to do with this 11-year-old kid who had been caught stealing a bicycle at a Staten Island mall. And his name is Harry Webster. I'll never forget him. And I remember my partner in the part, the other court officer said, man, he said, you know what that kid needs, man? He needs somebody like you. And my wife and I were separated at the time, and it was around Christmas. And I went, you know what? This is a Hallmark movie, but I'm wondering, so I asked the judge, could I take him? And for about 3 months, I raised Harry, and he came home with me. But that's a whole other story.
Right.
I wound up coming out to California and working, leaving law enforcement, working as a high school counselor at a high school in Santa Clara, California. And while there, I happened to read the paper one day. I took a much needed coffee break, and having worked with kids,
Yeah. Two coffee breaks.
you need all the coffee breaks you can get. And while on that coffee break, I happened to be reading the paper, and I would always read Liz Smith's gossip column because it was so New York. It was, it talked about Broadway, and it talked about, actors and actresses, and different things going on in the entertainment world. And one day I read a name, surprisingly, that of somebody that I knew. And it was Judge Judy Shineland. And that, it said that she had written a book, Don't Pee on My Leg and Tell Me It's Raining.
Right.
Shameless plug for her.
Right.
And that they were developing a TV show for her. Doug Llewellyn of People's Court fame was looking to develop a TV show for her. And I got excited, and it being pre-computer era, I actually took pen to paper and actually wrote her a letter of congratulations. God bless you. I hope things work out for you. And at the end of the letter, I left what I considered to be a little joke, which was, "Hey, if you ever need a bailiff, I still look good in uniform." That little joke prompted her, and the receipt of the letter prompted her to call me. She went to my friends. Fortunately, I still had friends who worked in Manhattan Family Court, and she went to them and she sought out my information, and she called me at my job and thanked me for the letter and said, "You might have been kidding, but we do need a bailiff. We tried it with a regular actor, and it's an unscripted show, and he didn't know quite how I work and how I maneuver." And she said, "I thought about you and your letter," and she said, "As I remember, you're a little crazy." I said, "Well, I'm still a little crazy." And she said, "Well, if you're crazy enough to try this with me, I will recommend you for the job." And that was sight unseen. I always tell people I could have been 400 pounds, man. She wouldn't have known it until she saw me, But she was as good as her word. She told the producers about me. They contacted me, flew me down to LA. Interviewed me and told me there on the spot that I had the job if I wanted it, and so I said yeah. Took a leave of absence from the high school, and in summer of 1996, we started taping Judge Judy. In anticipation of 25 years of good solid TV.
Yeah, you were hoping for 25 episodes. So.
Right, that's right. If I lasted 25 minutes, it would have been exciting.
It'll win. What a phenomenal,
What
a phenomenal story. But the lesson here is really not just persistence, but you did the right thing, you did a nice thing, and it came back in your favor. That's phenomenal. I just have to say that I really thought that on some of those episodes, loved watching you, but I think you lowballed some of those people with those Kelly Blue Book quotes. I was like, where's he getting his numbers from? I better never get on there because I'm going to bring in something else. The Kelly Blue Book doesn't work for me. So always great stuff. But Byrd, you do so much. What a rich background in law enforcement. And so you really are a New Yorker's New Yorker. But I know that you're also a writer. So are you working on something now?
I'm revisiting a couple of things that I wrote a couple of years ago. Some show ideas, and in particular, believe it or not, an animation idea that I came up with. I'm gonna estimate about 10 years ago.
Wow.
But recently, somebody I was explaining the premise of the animation series that I had, and an individual who is a cartoonist, an animator for Disney, said, "Hey, let's sit down and talk about this because your idea is timely, and maybe we can get something going with it." And then the writer's strike came down and was like, "I can't talk to you.
Right.
I'm a writer."
Yep.
But we'll see how that goes. But
Well, that's. I wish you tremendous luck with that, and the strike will end at some point, as all strikes do.
Yeah.
I can't. Yeah, I have to say, Petry Hawkins Byrd, thank you for joining us today.
Oh yeah. By the way,
yeah. By the way, you want to say something?
No. I was just showing my SAG after.
Oh yeah, exactly. No, you're legit. Come on, everybody knows you. Can't thank you enough for joining us today, sharing your experiences, not just on Judge Judy, but your background and also moving forward as a writer. To the viewers, don't forget to watch us on E360 TV, available on Wednesday nights at 9 p.m. EST, available on Roku, Apple TV, and Amazon Fire. Remember to follow us on social media. Life Stories with Marc Hoberman is on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and of course, our YouTube channel, so subscribe. Byrd, thank you so much for being here today.
My pleasure, dude.
Thank you for watching Life Stories with Marc Hoberman. To contact Marc, email him at info@lifestorieswithmarchoberman.com or visit him on social media through Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, and LinkedIn. Thank you for watching Life Stories with Marc Hoberman.